Hello guys, we are on the third game in the initiative series. The game starts as an French defense. The game is played between Zlatanovic and Duric in Lipnikis in 2008. The game goes e4, e6, knight c3, d5. Now knight f3. The line chosen by white doesn't pose many problems to black. Still some accuracy is needed. d4. This move forces play knight f6. Uh, for knight f6 is the most common reply here. And after knight e2, c5, c3, knight c6. And if at all this is played, if d3 is played, then it's an accuracy. Now knight f4 comes. After knight f4, if c4 is played, then I think queen a4 is coming, so that d3 cannot be played. After c3, knight c6, cd4, cd4, and queen a4. Now bishop c5. Here, if at all d3, then knight ed4 must be in white's favor, although the position would be double-edged. After bishop c5, b4. This is an unexpected move, immediately giving the initiative to white. Bishop takes b4, knight e takes d4. Now queen to a5. Black tries to trade queens in order to reduce white's pressure. Now queen takes, bishop takes. Then knight b5. The point is the d6 square. This knight will perfectly collaborate with the bishop that will soon be arriving on a3. Here knight takes c6 looks promising. After b takes c6, now bishop a3, knight f6, bishop to d3, followed by king e2, and activating the rooks looks much better uh, for white. However, the knight b5 move also gives white strong initiative. After that, black plays a6. This is definitely bad. There is no reason to force the knight to the d6 square. If you cannot prevent a good move, don't force your opponent to make it. Play some useful moves instead. Now knight d6, king f8, bishop a3, knight g7, knight g5. Often it is required to support the initiative with unusual measures. White's minor pieces are knitting some kind of net around the black king. Meanwhile, black faces big problems with finishing development. Now knight to d8. After this retreat, black is very far from full development. Here f6, knight g f7, now rook g8, now rook to c1 also gives white an edge. After knight d8, rook c1, bishop d7, bishop e2, bishop d3, keeping the king in the center was also very good, but white did not want to block the d pawn. Here b5 and castles, f6 and knight f3. The knight has done its job by causing disharmony in black's camp. It goes back to recover before the upcoming events. Now knight f7, knight to b7. Not only played with the idea to gain a tempo before advancing d4, but it also good to keep pieces on the board when you have a space and development advantage. Now bishop b6, d4, knight d8. Here rook c8 can be chosen with the same idea of exchanging material, although after knight d2, bishop takes d4 and knight to b3, bishop b6, knight 7 c5. Black's position looks hopeless. Here black goes knight to d8, then knight c5, rook a7, d5. The player with the initiative must play aggressively, or it may disappear. The d5 pawn restricts the d8 knight and d7 bishop, and the d4 square is also vacated for the f3 knight. Now king f7. Capturing will just boost white's initiative. Here e takes d5, and after e takes d5, black is unable to prevent the infiltration on the e6 square. So now rook f d1. Here bishop d1 was another good possibility. The idea of course is to place the bishop on b3 and support pressure on the e6 square. The number of promising options for white is a testament to just how bad black's position is. Now e5. This move blocks the position and slows white's attack. But on the other hand, a strong protected passed pawn has appeared. White has lost some aggression, but gained a long-lasting advantage which is enough to guarantee the win. Now knight e1, h5, preventing a potential bishop g4 after capturing on d7. Though white is not obliged to capture the bishop, black's other bishop is more valuable as it covers many weak squares on the queen side. The knight is perfectly placed on c5 and white regroups patiently behind it. Now knight ed3, bishop g4, f3. The pawn setup in the center suggests that white should exchange the light squared bishops. In fact, this would help black reduce the pressure. The move here is much better. White gains a tempo and black pieces remain clustered. Bishop to c8, king f1, knight g6, rook d2. White patiently puts all his pieces on their best squares. It is time to double the rooks. Now knight b7, knight b3, keeping pieces on the board and threatening rook c6. Now bishop d7, rook dc2, knight a5, knight takes a5. White sees the variation with infiltration along the c file, and so now he goes for exchanges. Bishop takes a5, knight c5, knight f4. Here if bishop to c8, then knight v3 is coming. If at all bishop e8 is played, then again knight b3, bishop b6, and rook to c8. After knight f4, knight takes d7. This is the simplest solution. After rook takes d7, rook c6. Black has an unpleasant choice: to capture the e2 bishop and continue playing with the worse bishop, or to play against a dangerous bishop pair. White also has much better pieces and pawn structure, and even a safer king. The position is almost won for white. Rook a8, g3, knight g6. Now bishop d1. Here f4 was winning immediately. After knight e7, f takes e5, f takes e5, and rook e6. White missed just because he was focused on the queen side. All white pieces target the queen side, and it was unexpected that a blow was possible on the king side. White instead transfers the e2 bishop to a more important diagonal, that is the a2 g8 diagonal. This also wins. After bishop d1, knight e7, bishop b3, black's king must escape. The white bishops are too dangerous. Now king g6, rook e6, b4. One bishop is shut off, but the other will inherit an amazing diagonal, that is bishop a4. Now bishop b2, bishop c7. Here if rook to b7, then d6, knight to g8, then bishop to d5 is coming. If at all knight g8, then bishop takes e5. So after bishop c7, rook bishop a4, now rook a d8, bishop takes, the rook cannot move. So after rook a d8, bishop takes d7, rook takes d7. Here now white easily converts the advantage. After rook takes c7, rook takes e7, there is d6, rook c6, d7, rook takes, and now queen d8 queen, and king f7, bishop c1, rook c6, bishop d2, rook c2, bishop takes b4, knight c6, queen d5 check. Now king g6, bishop c5, knight a5, f4, knight c4, f5, king h7, king e1, knight b2, bishop f8, rook c1 check, king e2, rook c2 check, king f3, knight c4, queen f7, knight d2 check, king e3, knight f1 check, king d3, rook d2 check, and king c3, and black finally resigned here. an instructive game on the topic of seizing and maintaining the initiative. Okay guys, I'll be meeting you in the next game. Thank you all.